And thank you for coming back to the committee, Mr. Secretary. If I recall, when you were last here, we talked a little bit about atmospheric carbon and the amount of time it takes to degrade atmospheric carbon. I'm trying to search my memory. Did you say 4,000 years, roughly?
No, but I said centuries.
Centuries, okay.
Yeah.
But still, a significant amount of time. Once the carbon is captured in the atmosphere, it certainly takes a long time to degrade it. We've also, in much of the debate within this body, as well as as we talk about climate change, much of what we discuss is how to mitigate adding additional carbon to the atmosphere. And I think that's where some of the discussion's gone. In addition, when we talk about sequestration, much of what we're talking about is how we capture and do soil-based sequestration. Is that's accurate, I believe, as well.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Within the DoD budget, though, are we also researching potential opportunities to do atmospheric degradation in terms of research and so forth? I'd be curious about that.
Well, there are activities going on for, if you like, beneficial use of CO2. There are not that many opportunities at the scale that one needs. One example would be in the, for example, our Sunlight to Fuels hub, which is an issue of using light, CO2, and water to produce hydrocarbon fuels for use. So that's one example, but I can't say that that's going to be commercial next year.
Right, but some of the challenge that we potentially face is at some juncture, atmospheric carbon that is already captured there is not going to degrade for centuries. We'll have a challenge, and there probably is some irreversible point where.
Right, and in general, again, these are major scientific challenges, not easy, but very important part of the portfolio, because certainly if you compare that with some of the ideas about what's called often geoengineering, like putting sulfates into the atmosphere, those have consequences that I don't think we understand.
Absolutely. Switching over to kind of the scientific computing side and so forth, Intel's a major presence in my district and has been obviously very involved in supercomputing. We've, within this body, talked about some of the advanced scientific computing and challenges of managing big data as we accumulate more data, how we sort through that data, how we use it. I'm a physician by training. Certainly, there's ways for us to use it to better manage patients and diseases. I'd like to have you comment on the DOE's, supercomputing priorities here. You touched on the exascale program and so forth, and love to hear your comments.
Thank you. Again, we consider this to be a very high priority and very much in line with the historic contributions that DOE has made in leading high-performance computing. So our plan would be to achieve exascale very early in the next decade. Want to make clear that we don't view this as a race to how many flops, as opposed to generating the technologies. For example, energy management is a critical one if we're going to make the next stage. But resilience of computers, how do you do the algorithmic architectures, a whole set of questions that are very fundamental as we go to this next scale. So we're going to push that and drive it through an application vision to science issues, to energy issues, and of course to national security issues. Our nuclear weapons program has always relied upon this very heavily.
Great. Now, you also touched on the importance of the public-private partnership and your emphasis there in the Office of Technology Transfer. Just given your academic background, what are some things that we could do within this body to help facilitate that greater partnership between the private sector and academia, particularly our public universities?
With regard to the computing specifically?
Well, computing, but also the whole area of technology transfer.
Okay. Well, I think I think the committee could certainly advance these kinds of programs that are viewed in particular with having some degree of stability over time. That's very important, I think, for industry making commitments, okay? Secondly, I think reinforcing, within balance, more some of these group projects, like in the Office of Science. I'll mention the Energy Frontier Research Centers. I think this has been a terrific program in its construct, engaging the science community, getting 10, 12 people together on an important project over 5 years. And those, I know from my own experience, where MIT, I think, had, in my previous life, I want to make it clear, had 2 of those, they really attracted industrial partners in there. So those are the kinds of things that I think, in terms of how it's structured, would be very helpful.
Great, thank you. And I'll yield.